What's going on YouTube? Or Storm here coming at you guys another video today. I know I've been away from doing videos for quite a bit, but last week I was actually on vacation from work, so I wanted to take a brief break, kind of just get away from doing videos for about a week or so. And this week I actually finally got a hold of my new phone, and I was updating had to update the old stuff from the old phone, and in the process that actually cleared out the video I originally recorded. So I decided to just start over from scratch and deck profile for you guys. And there's going to be more deck profile updates on the way. Spirals are going to be updated. Dark Magician should be updated relatively soon. And I've got some other videos planned for you guys, so just stay tuned for more videos. I'm going to be back to uploading again. Anyways, I felt like for the first deck profile for the new format, I feel like Pendulum Magicians would be best because it's kind of like, well, it's one of my favorites. It's probably one of my favorite decks, and it's the deck I'm probably the most familiar with. So of course now Magicians are still pretty strong after the ban list. I will say the deck still does its thing. It's just you did lose a pretty good amount of consistency because you're not going to see the Pendulum Grass nearly as much. And you lost quite a few Duelist Alliance targets, but by losing Joker, because consequently, Pendulum Sorcerer is not as good with Joker banned, and there's just not space to play like the Gi Turtle Lizard Draw engine. But anyways, that's the main reason why it is, that's one of the things the deck did lose. But the deck is still, though, really, really strong. So, of course, you gotta play this little package right here, which is your 3 Astrograph Sorcerers, 3 Chronograph Sorcerers, and then the targets they can special summon from the deck. I don't know if a lot of you knew this, but both these Astrograph and Chronograph have Pendulum effects that allow you to pop them in the Pendulum Zone to special summon Stargazer and Time Gazer, respectively. I've seen some builds that don't play Stargazer because it's a level 5, which means it can't be normal summon. It has summoned from hand. So let's say you get a Dark Worm, but if this is sitting in your hand, it's not really doing anything. It's not getting you to Electromite. But the main reason these cards are kind of like, you have the room now that you really do need these because these get Electromite on the board as quickly as possible. Chronograph's also really good because it's a level 4, or it's level 6, so you can make Naruto with it. And overall, it's just a really, really good card. Astrograph, needs no explanation. Mandatory 3 of, in my opinion, because you want to see it as often as possible. I will say, if you do run Chronograph, you have to run these guys because because you'll have hands where you'll have both of these cards. And if you don't have these cards in your deck, they just sit up and clog up your hand. So I will say, if you do run Chronograph, you definitely want to max out on it. I feel it's the best engine you can be running in this deck. Then 3 copies of Wisdom Eye Magician, not too much to say here. One of the best and most important cards in the deck. Allows you to set your scales from the deck basically for free. And, it's more important than ever with the Double Irish and Joker gone that you definitely want to have this maxed out. Then 3 Harmonizing Magician, one of the best tutors of the deck. Honestly, it's gotten even better with Electromite's release, because now you have so many more options to tutor from your deck. If you want to make Naruto, you can tutor an Oak Dragon straight from your deck, and then and then use this and something else to make another play. There's just so many options this card opens up for you, being able to tutor any magician straight from your deck. And being a tutor means you can make a level rank, any kind of play you want. This card will get you there. You want to max out on 1 card enablers. Then 3 Purple Poison Magician. I still feel this is a 3 of, especially considering you don't have Sorcerer anymore to search off a Duelist Alliance, which would come up at times. You have a lot of hands where you have a bunch of high levels but no low scales. And it's still really good for outing annoying floodgates like Anti-Spell Fragrance, and True Dracos are definitely starting to increase in popularity. And if this deck is the best deck, you're going to see a lot more anti-Pendulum hate. So it's definitely a card you want to have at 3. Then for the last 4 Magician monsters, we have 2 Elf Dragons and 2 Black Fangs. These have been my ratios with both these cards since we got Pendulum Evolution. I don't really see a reason to change it. There's something to be said for running 1 Oath Dragon, but there's a lot of combos where you'll tutor this out. You'll get this out with Purple Poison. You use it to make a rank 6 play, and that's when the second one comes up, because you really want to have, basically, you want to have 1 in deck for Harmonizing's effects, and you want to have 1 that you can use to cycle back your extra deck resources. Black Fangs, it also combos really well with Electromite, because let's say you already have Astrograph in the rotation, and your hand, well, you can use Electromite's pop effect to add back. So you can use it to stack harmonizing, and then use Overdragon effect to add harmonizing to your hand. So it effectively becomes a search card. Black Fang's still really good for playing through back row like Solemn Strike, especially with Judgment also coming off the list. There's 5 Solemn cards your opponent can potentially have in their back row. So Pendulum summoning this with another monster, you can activate its effect on after being strike to bring back a monster and keep going. It's really, really good. Then there's the new engine. The thing, this engine should be too unfamiliar, which is 3 Dark Worms and 1 Supreme King Gate 0. Especially with Joker Band, you have more normal summoning. This is not the worst thing in the world, but the main thing is you want to put it in the graveyard with Foolish Burial or Dragon Shrine. It can then special summon itself from the graveyard when you control no monsters, which will get you to Electromite with another monster being normal summon. It also searches this Gate 0 here, and its Pendulum effect actually can come up because it's a 1-card scale. You can activate it and set any Supreme King Gate straight from your deck, but with the restriction that you can only Pendulum summon dark monsters, which, considering most of this next lineup is dark, it's not a huge restriction. So in a pinch, it's a 1-card scale, and it gets you... Gate 0 is just a searchable low scale, which is really nice, especially with Sorcerer no longer being in the list. And it's really good because it's level 7 monster, so if you really need to, you can use it to make Absolute Dragon. There's something to be said for running the second Gate 0 because of Astrograph Sorcerer, but I just kind of like having one because I don't feel like you really ever want to draw it. Then the last monster, you have 1 Luster Pendulum. This brings my Duelist Alliance targets up to 6. I just wanted to have another target, and it really does come in handy. It works really well with Astrograph Sorcerer. If you open this Astrograph Sorcerer, use this ping Astrograph Sorcerer, the Sorcerer will special summon itself, and you can search out another copy from your deck. It's an amazingly good card. I'm thinking about bumping it to 2 possibly, to kind of give me more Duelist Alliance targets, but I really like having it in there. It does come up a lot. Then, of course, for hand traps, you have 2 Ghost Ogres and 2 Ash Blossoms. I like having both of these because they're good in different situations. Ash is not quite as good in the mirror as Ghost Ogre is, because if your opponent summons Electromite and activates the effect on summon, if you Ghost Ogre it, they no longer have zones to Pendulum summon, and they're going to have to commit resources their Pendulum summon to get a second one out. Ash Blossom's really good in pretty much every other matchup. Light Sworns, it's really solid. Prevents their, can prevent their solar. This on solar recharge is really good because they're really going neg because they're discarding a card from their hand. It's also really good against preventing things like Curios from triggering, from milling things from the deck. And it's also good against the new Dino Shaddoll list that's running around because you can use it on Shaddoll Fusion, and you can use it on Oviraptor's effect. Overall, I feel like this is kind of the best hand trap lineup. You don't want to run too many hand traps in this deck because you are playing a very combo oriented deck. But I feel like if you don't, also Effect Failure is a very valid replacement for Ash Blossom. If you do not have them, I highly recommend Effect Failure because Spiral is not nearly as relevant. You're targeting Effect Failure on Electromite can also end turns. Then for the spells, we have these are some of the 1-0s. We have 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Dragon Shrine. It might seem odd playing Monster Reborn in a Pendulum deck, but the card is still really amazing. It can target your opponent's graveyard too. And it's also really good because it allows you to, if your play gets stopped, you can bring something back. And this kind of can bring back an Electromite that's been stopped, for example. You can still get off its pop effect. You can bring back a Link monster, and then it opens up zones if it's something like Borolo Dragon, for example. It's an overall really solid card. These are here to get your Dark Worm in the graveyard. You could definitely run a second Dragon Shrine, but I just find that this is you don't want to run Dragon Shrine is a hard once per turn, so you don't want to have multiples in your hand all the time. Then 3 Duelist Alliance. Yes, the targets for this card are down, but I don't really see a reason not to maximize this card because it is still searches out your most important cards, which are the trap card, and you're running a 42 card deck, so even the low chance of around 4 or 5% of opening multiples of these is even lower because you're running a harder card count. So I still feel like this card, unless you're running 4 or less targets, I still think you want to maximize on it. Then for the last 3 spells, we have 2 Pendulum, not 3, that would be crazy. 2 Pendulum Calls, 1 Star Pendulum Graph. I decided about Pendulum Call up to 2 to help with the consistency that we did lose by losing Joker. This means that you will see your scales more, you'll get to it more often, and you also don't have as many instances where you really need to pop your monsters in the Pendulum Zone. You don't need to pop Double Iris, And you can still proc your purple poison and your Black Fang's Pendulum effects. You just obviously can't get the pop effects. And Star Pendulum Graph, it's down to 1 because while it is only searchable now via Duelist Alliance, you really don't need. It's kind of like icing on the cake, if you will. It can be really good when you get it off and you get it off in interaction with cards like Wisdom Eye, but you don't need it. You know what I'm saying. Then for the traps, of course, the 1 Solemn Judgment, 2 Time Pendulum Graph. I still feel Solemn Judgment is an amazingly good card. And being able to stop basically anything, and life points really don't matter. And then the 2 Time Pendulum Graphs, because you do want to see it, even though it is, double iris is banned. I feel like 2 is still the proper number in my opinion. Then for the extra deck, we have the 1 Heavy Metal Full Selector Might. If I did have the second one, I would be playing it. But the card is still absolutely amazing. Basically, upon Link Summon, it can stack any Pendulum monster from your deck to the extra deck. Most of the time, you'll be stacking Astrograph to add back hand with its second effect, but you can also stack, and this is where the second one would come in, you can also stack a Magician that can be added back to hand with Oath Dragon, which is really good. And then by popping a card you control that can, besides itself, it can add a Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. So you can add an Astrograph back, then special summon it out. And then on top of that, whenever a card leaves Pendulum Zone, you get to draw a card. Really, really good card. Definitely, I would be running 2 if I didn't have them, but I only have 1 currently. Then 1 Decode and 1 Borolo Dragon. These are link monsters that help to make the Vortex play where you link off Absolute Dragon. I still feel Borolo is a pretty decent card. Yes, we don't have spirals, and that was the main reason it's good, but True Dracos are slowly creeping back into the format, and Borolo Dragon is pretty good at getting over Masterpiece. If it's unaffected by spells like it usually is, you can summon Borolo and just punch over it if it's unaffected by monsters. If it's unaffected by like traps and spells like it sometimes is, you can simply just use Borolo's effect to lower its attack points and then punch over it. And Decode Talker is really good simply for being a link that you can make that with to make the Vortex play, but these are pretty much all you need. I no longer play what's the card, Akashic Magician, because while the card has a lot of synergy, you really don't need it anymore because it's sort of the same thing. This is a lot like Double Helix in that if you get to this, you can typically punch over a Baguska, and honestly, like, I'm not seeing as many Baguskas running around anyways, but that's the main reason I'm no longer running that card. Then with the fusion, we have 1 Starving Man and 1 Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. You make this by linking off an Absolute Dragon. I consider the Yugioh play with Dissolver, but I don't have Yugioh currently, so I feel like that's kind of the best way to bring this out. Being able to negate things like Evenly Match and other things is pretty dang good. Starving Man actually becomes a lot more relevant because we're seeing that Dino Shadal deck running around. This allows you to play into a Tyranno. If your opponent, most of the time your opponents, if they Pendulum Summon, if you Pendulum Summon, they're going to hit your Tyranno. They're going to Tyranno right when your Pendulum Summon happens. So you can Contact Fuse into this after they do that. And then you can copy Tyranno's effect with this to use it to book their field. And it also allows your monster to do piercing damage as well. It can copy any monster's effects. So you can, for example, hint, copy this. But you can also copy any other monster in the grave or on the field. And on top of that, it allows you to... It makes your monster do piercing, which comes up sometimes because your opponent, let's say you go for battle phase, you try to attack for game, and they flip Scapegoat. Well, this will deal with that, and I still don't feel like it's always been a staple in Almag Pendulum Magician extra decks, and that hasn't changed. Then 1 Abyss Dweller. Floaters are still a problem, can be a problem for this deck, and it's good in a lot of different matchups. The aforementioned Dino Shadal matchup, it's very good. It can still be good against the Lingering Spiral variants running around, and Burning Abyss is still a thing, at least at my locals, but I do feel like Dweller's always going to have a place in my Magician extra deck. Then 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Baguska. Tornado Dragon's not quite as relevant because we no longer have Double Iris, but still being able to clear that back row as a quick effect is pretty decent. And for those boards where you have something like Naruto, this can be a really good card to make in certain matchups. Baguska is still pretty decent, and I find it's in those situations where you can't you can't get past a rank 4 and an Electromite. That's where this thing comes up really good, and so yeah, pretty good cards here. Definitely think they have a place in your extra deck. Then the last rank 4, we have 1 Time Star Magician. It still comes up a lot, and especially with Double Iris Band, you now need more ways to get the Joker gone. You need more ways to get to your Magicians, and this also can search the Sorcerers, which can be really good. So yeah, pretty decent card. Then for the last couple of Exceed monsters, with 1 Naruto and the 1 Absolute Dragon. Naruto's a great card for negating spells and traps, and You should have even though you don't play a ton of level 6s, you should have pretty easy time accessing it. Absolute Dragon's really decent because you can link it off to make, you basically use it to bring out Vortex Dragon, and that's actually really, really good. Then for the synchros, I have one Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. Clearwing's really good for pushing up TKs. Basically, whenever it's synchro summon, it nukes the board. You can also tribute off a couple of Dark Worms if they're sitting on the board to bring it out of the grave. But mostly that's not going to really come up that much, but it can. And it has some weird construct-like effect. When you bash it into a monster, you can destroy the monster and burn them for the damage. Most of the time, you're just be using this to clear board to go for game, and you know, it's really good. One Stardust Dragon, mostly for the mirror match. I find that it's actually there's a lot of things that destroy the mirror, like Electromite, and there are board wipes still running around. I just feel like it's a good card to have in the extra deck just in case. Then for the last two act monsters in the extra deck, the one Ignister and the one Omega. Ignister is an amazing card, obviously. Non-targeting removal is always good, and it's a really good target for your Starving Venom as well. Also, you do have the Luster in deck to grab, so you can have more fodder to keep going. For example, you can use, if you happen to have Electromite already out, you can summon this from deck, and then you maybe make a Boral Load or whatever other link plays you want to make. Omega's obvious, you know, it allows you to knock card out of your opponent's hand, put back banished card. What's not to like? So anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think of this deck profile down in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. So Storm signing out.